All right, hello everyone. Happy Thursday, and welcome to this weekly check-in on the market with myself, Greta Wall, I'm your host, and I'm joined by David Prince, the leader of T3 Live's Inner Circle virtual trading floor. Hi, David. Happy Thursday. How's the trading going so far today?
Today is a good day, as it is, I think, for most people in the stock market. Special day, special week.
Yes, definitely a special week and day. So today, the title of our stream today is post-election Fed Day, but we also, of course, have a lot of other things to talk about. But let's start out with the news of the day today, and that is the Fed meeting. FOMC decision is set to be released at 2 p.m. Eastern time today. And then, of course, the chairman's press conference at 2:30 being, I think, much more of a focus for the market. The expectations are a 25 basis point cut, but it's a question on whether Powell will be more hawkish in his language in that press conference at 2:30 with the craziness we've seen in the bond market since the last Fed meeting. And there's a question on whether the housing market might be in some trouble here with rates back above 7%, even post 50 basis point cut by the Fed. What are you thinking into today's Fed meeting, and what are you focused on?
All right. Well, I think we all agree we're getting a 25 basis point cut. That's kind of a done deal. And I think it's all about the language at 2:30. There are two things to think about. There is the bond market, which did its own thing and promptly ignored the last Fed meeting, which gives him room, right? Some people say, well, he's got to continue cutting because look what the bond market just did. It went the opposite way. I think he's not going to be bullied by the bond market and will talk about the fact that the economy has held up fairly well, that numbers dictate some of his future action. And although they are in rate cut mode, he will be data dependent. He might even mention that he's been a bit surprised by the strength in the economy. Housing doesn't equal the economy always. Eventually it does, right? Like at the extremes. And I have been bearish housing. I've been loud about it on Twitter, and all these people told me about supply demand and how dumb I was. And I said, okay. I've been pretty bearish, and I think what's happening is the market is unfrozen, right? It traded like a halted stock as far as I was concerned, because we all own, or so many of us own, the equivalent of an interest rate. We don't own a home, right? We own an interest rate at 2%. So who the hell is moving to flip it to 7%? That said, a lot of people had a simple thesis. Well, if you sell one home, you're not going to be homeless. You got to buy another. They forgot about all the Airbnbs and the Blackstones that own half of middle of Florida. I think there's too much supply. And I think unless rates come down significantly, we have to get through that supply, and I expect prices to go lower. I'm not talking about a crash, but I have been talking about this, and I could have been wrong. It so happens now I've been proven right, whether it's rates staying up. But I've been bearish the housing market for 6 months and saying we haven't seen anything yet. And we're finally seeing in all the key cities, which I talked to friends who are mortgage brokers. One of my partners, one of the larger hard money lenders in the country, and they all say the same thing. They're like, listen, even appraisals aren't coming in right. And frankly, there's so much inventory, it's going to take a while. And we're seeing Miami, we're seeing Palm Beach, we're seeing Wellington, we're seeing so many different top ends of the area really slow down, tons of inventory, places like Austin just falling off the map. And the question I have for people, and I always admit I'm not an expert at this stuff, but if Meta, Microsoft, Apple, and Google all had poor earnings and crashed tomorrow, is the market just going to go higher? Or does the market listen to all these key areas of the housing market and kind of take a cue from them? Besides these small little areas where maybe supply and demand is so skewed that prices stay up, I think these leading regions are going to lead the market lower. So that's my general thesis. I don't want to be too long-winded on it, but this whole, like, there's not enough supply. There's not enough supply. The housing market's going to stay up forever. I never believed it.
When it comes to today's Fed meeting, how are you positioned into 2 p.m.? And then what's your, A then B plan when it comes to 2 to 2:30? The market can be really volatile in those 30 minutes, and then especially in the 2:30 3 o'clock when we're trying to kind of digest what chairman is saying.
I'm levered long, don't have many shorts at all. I have some puts and a few cute things, but overall, and I don't have many hedges on, quite frankly, and I hope the market sells off. the way just to talk about my book, it's been Tesla, Tesla, and Tesla for weeks now, including the pullback, which wasn't easy right away. But the way we were positioned for the election was pretty simple. I was like, all right, Trump loses, it's going to go down, and I'll buy more, and it'll be an opportunity, but it'll be a painful day for a minute, but I can deal with the pain. But the upside is so significant. I like the risk reward. Same thing with Bitcoin, and we did that via IBIT. And same thing with what I call under the hood stories, right? Key companies that I really think can outperform regardless. A-Lab was one of them. Astera, Reddit was one of them, which I got flat today because the stock's gone up in a straight line. So we have plenty of longs on, but I've trimmed a lot. I'm in Amazon for the breakout, like half of the street. Not early. Like I didn't put stock on. Had some calls, but I didn't put stock on until yesterday, 103s. And today I've trimmed some, and I think this breakout continues. I think this breakout is akin to what we saw with Apple, over 200, except the difference is they're producing historic cash flow. Business is stronger. Growth is there. They're lean and mean. So if Apple can go from 200 to 230, forget market caps and PEs. If Apple can go from 200 to 228, I think that first move in a straight line, I think Amazon on a conservative basis can get to 220. So I think this breakout's for real. I think Jeff is probably out there selling right now, but as opposed to hurting himself in the whole street, I don't think he's like blockading the stock and selling millions upon millions of shares on each tick. I think there's someone out there who's a smart institution who is spreading his sales around at VWAP or something, and we all get to win. So I'm long. I don't expect to do a lot between 2 and 230. I think this whole meeting is about 230 and how he presents going forward in terms of how many rate cuts to expect, how data dependent he is, if he mentions the economy is much stronger than he anticipated. Those are the type of statements I'll look for.
David, we're getting some YouTube comments wishing you a happy birthday. Is it your birthday?
It is not.
I don't know where they got that. I was like, I don't think it's your birthday, but all right. Well, they're wishing you early. Okay.
I'm old enough. I don't need another birthday.
So obviously yesterday post-election, we had a huge rally in the market, all three major indices hitting record highs on Wednesday, NVIDIA trading at new all-time highs, Amazon, as you mentioned, finally breaking past
I didn't even mention, sorry.
That $200 wall, Bitcoin hitting new record highs as well, Tesla being seen as, a Trump play because of Elon Musk, trading at all-time highs as well. Do you think the election rally is here to stick around through the end of the year? Or what are we looking at in the weeks ahead when it comes to the optimism on the street?
So two things. I really advise people to not have FOMO, but to understand that there's a bid underneath the market, and that it's more than likely, especially as Trump appoints people to his administration, I think we'll continue to see a bid. So you have to have your favorites, and you have to have those moments where, here's an event, whether it's an economic number, whether it's the FOMC today, that might provide a little downside. What do you want to own? A lot of people, if they're maybe inexperienced, are like, this went up so much, what do I short? I think you constantly have to be, what do I want to own when it pulls back? Like my target on Tesla was 300. Maybe it goes higher, but that was my target. So I'm smallest Tesla I've been in weeks. And frankly, if I pull back to 280, I know I want to buy some. If I pull back to 272, I know I really want to buy some. So I think you have to be prepared for a chase into the end of the year. But there's a big but. I don't think it has anything to do with Mag 7. Like, I'm happy with NVIDIA. I sold some yesterday, not today, and it looks great. But I don't think that's where the alpha comes from. The alpha, just look, is coming from APP up 50% at one point today. A-Lab in a couple days up 50%. That's one we thankfully own. Reddit up like 50% in a week. That's where the alpha is coming from. Look at a name like Lyft today. So I think you have to worry less about the market. It's great, like the Qs are up, but that's not where the alpha is coming from. And look at what just happened with IWM yesterday, a historic day, and it's kind of holding up today. Sure, pull back a little bit. So my playbook is not to worry about the indices too much. And then, like always, does this XBI finally get through 103s, which we're stuck at? And just to go over that real quickly, because so many people know me for XBI, I said, November is when it starts. Whether it's Trump, whether it's luck, whatever it is, we're up 6% for November. So I'm taking a victory lap. But let's face it, everything's up. I actually think it's trading kind of below average. Some people say that's part of Trump's administration. This has to do with RFK. I don't know. I know that biotech as a whole has one of the best charts in the market, and if we can get through this 103, there is a straight line to 110. But boy, it's like a Bezos wall. So I'm looking underneath the hood, whether it's XBI that finally wants to go, or some of my favorite stocks like Amazon, which I'm on record saying it's just dirt cheap based on its historic multiple. It was dirt cheap. So finally it went. So that's where I'm looking. In terms of the market, I don't think you're going to get any aggressive pullbacks. When you do, or when we do, I hope to be a buyer of all my favorites. Reddit, Affirm, I was my focus all week. I said, listen, if there's someone that might impress big time tonight and gap and go, it was Affirm. So I took a large trade in Affirm. The problem is premiums were so high in calls. I'm a risk taker. I don't like call spreads. In fact, I hate them. But the IV was so high, I figured the way to make real money is just do more size and do a call spread. So I did that, and they maxed out this morning when it was 52. So I'm out of Affirm, but that's something I might get in again. It's my focus tonight. Tonight is huge, by the way. Anyway, tonight is not about Mag 7, but it's a million small companies, all high growth, high octane, especially when it comes to fintech. We have Block, Affirm, and Upstart. I'm going to really focus on those because that's where you're going to get alpha into the end of the year. Mm-hmm. All those types of names.
Mm-hmm. Affirm was my next topic, so you beat me to it. This is the $47 calls that were part of that call spread that you did, and you said you got out of that spread as of this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
what was 52? It was up over 100. There was risk reward didn't add up any longer.
Yeah. I mean, look at So when it comes to Affirm's report this afternoon, they're reporting after the market closes. You have a talent for knowing what the market cares about, what number is important when it comes to an earnings report. What is the thing that you're focused on for
free cash flow? He's already guided us towards it. Is he throwing off free cash flow? Is FCF really significant? And can we expect a couple more quarters of this? So if this is becoming a cash flow positive story and he's throwing off and momentum's there, then it becomes pretty big. Also, there was that quick hiccup where I think Apple picked up whatever competitor like beyond Affirm, and it put a hiccup in the story. It's going to be, basically the take rate. Like, are more people using Affirm in this competition? Not really a significant part of the story. But at first, I guess someone put Affirm on their program. It was a big boom to the stock, and then there was, I don't even remember anymore. There was a competitor that joined Apple or someone, and it dinged the stock a couple of weeks ago. So it's going to be stuff like that, but it's all about guidance and free cash flow. And if we can expect to see progressive quarters of more cash flow, higher revenue, and consistently, because this is a company that very rarely has like 3-4 quarters of consistent growth. If we're that now, people can really put a new multiple on it.
All right. You've been so active in Tesla recently, as you mentioned earlier, and we're right up at that $300 mark. I think the high today was $299.75. Do you think the 300 level will serve as really strong resistance, kind of a wall like 200 was for Amazon, or different with that?
No, I think it's like a cute area, right? But we could easily pull back to 285 and then in a few weeks be 315. In fact, I think the bigger area that everyone's looking at, I'm not looking at the chart right now, it's like 313, 314. If we get through that, it could be 350. I'm not one to quote Kramer, but he said it well this morning. He's like, he made a big bet, right? He's got I don't want to say he's got the president in his pocket, but the guy made a big bet and he won, right? He literally laid himself on the line. Very few CEOs will do that. Literally, if Kamala won, it was going to be a different story. There's payback for that in a good way, right? He's going to get paid. So it's very hard. Like, you can talk about valuation or a bunch of other things don't matter right now. In this environment, as close as he is with Trump and all the news we're going to hear about meetings with Trump and different things he might do, there should be more upside. I think, we had 300 calls. I'm out of those. I still have stock, but I trimmed some at 299.50 today because I was like, all right, here we are. I wouldn't go out and buy it, and I would just hope for pullbacks, and I'd be a buyer. I just see no reason to get in the way. Forget the fact that he just had his most real quarter, right? Where there was like real news. It wasn't pomp and circumstance that moved the stock. It was margins, and it was guidance on sales, and it was power packs. There was like real news. So you put it all together, who the hell wants to call a top in Tesla? Not me. So I just know I want to buy it if it dips again. And I know 280 would be an area, but the big area would be somewhere between yesterday's lows where we added stock, 277, 276, and 272.
All right. When it comes to Tesla and, Elon Musk's ties to Trump and his likely position in the cabinet or some type of position in the administration, do you think it changes the dynamics of Tesla moving forward?
No, it's really, to me, like, don't confuse it. It's as long as he doesn't get too involved in the day-to-day administration in the United States of America, it's fine. Everyone that has half a brain knows if he's to take a position, if his attention has to stray away to the good of the country and not Tesla, then we have a Twitter situation where the stock would actually go down. So I think we have to know for now, all signs point to go, and it's great. If he gets too involved, and it's a day-to-day job, and we're seeing press conferences constantly that are about the United States of America and cutting waste in government, and it involves Elon, and there's a actual label or title to him, Tesla as a stock would have a tough time. So, and he's much brighter than most of us. So I think he knows all this, and he will toe the line, so to speak, and it not be an issue. But that's the issue one would have to watch out for.
Yes. Let's talk a bit about VKTX, Viking Therapeutics. They got crushed this week after releasing data on Sunday. First, what was the issue with the data that was released on Sunday that the stock market got so mad about?
The biggest issue, like more than anything, was the size of the data. There's just not enough people. And to extrapolate that it's best in breed and that it can really compete with Lilly and gain market share and be a standalone company or be taken over took more than 10 people. They really had to show a bigger study. And then the second part that seeped into the market, and it's just what normally happens when stocks go up a lot, is, wow, this is still going to cost so much. Do they have the capital to really get this to the finish line and for all of it to come to fruition? And in order to do that, there'll have to be more stock sales. So I think that's what it was about. What I can tell you is, and Inner Circle's open, so everyone knows, is once it got to 80, I said, listen, I'm not excited about this weekend. I'm excited about this weekend to hear what they have to say, but I'm not so excited as the stock price. The risk reward is not as fantastic. So it just sets up bad. So much of where we are on earnings and how a stock reacts and biotech is the market expecting a lot? And I literally said this exact thing to Inner Circle. I said, listen, if the stock was 60, I'd be really excited and really long. But up between 75 and 80, how can you be that excited? It's expecting a ton. The demand, like the market demands amazing results. And sometimes that doesn't work out well. So I just go back to that same thing. Where's the market in terms of expectations? And sometimes I can miss things. Let me give you an example. APP had earnings. I knew they were going to be great, right? App loving, the stock told you they were going to be great. And I was like, I would never buy calls for this print because how much higher can it go? So I'd be risk off. Turns out it can go plenty higher, and it keeps going. In the case of VKTX, it helped a lot of us because no one was gangbuster long into the print. It was more about calls or call spreads because it was higher. So you have to kind of figure out where your upside is and if it's worth taking the risk. But I think it's everything I read. I actually think it's going to be a best in breed product. And I think it'll get taken over, or they'll do it on their own and they'll have a partnership. I get why the stock doesn't keep going higher because they need a larger study and people want to feel confident about their cash position and not having to do a ton of deals and flood the market. But I actually don't. I think there's probably a buy opportunity at 61, 62. The way I look at it, I'm focused on what's easier right now. So I haven't bought a share this week. What I basically did is Amazon looks a hell of a lot easier breaking through 200. ALAB, those earnings are unbelievable. ALAB, I wrote this on Twitter, ALAB equals Reddit. So under 90, I was like, this thing's cheap. Like if it's really going to become the next Reddit, so we're buying ALAB, and it got to 99. So I'm just focused on where can I eat easier and not have to fight things. I think VKTX is absolutely fine. It's just going to take some time to kind of wear out these clouds that are above it. But I actually view all the news as a positive. But I get what the market was like set up to be disappointed because it ran up into it, and then finally the study wasn't big enough.
In addition to that data that VKTX released on Sunday, it was Obesity Week, the 3rd through 6th. So yesterday was the last day of that.
Oh, I got something to say. I can't believe I didn't say this. So when Lily had numbers, I actually told everyone, I said, I'm not as excited about, I can't believe I forgot this. So, the inner circle's open, so everyone knows. I literally said, I am no longer super excited about VKTX. I said, I like it, but there is now a cloud over the whole industry. Everyone can argue, are we at a climatic point where it can't grow to the same level, or was it just about inventory and Lilly slowing down inventory to make sure every product they produce is correct? I don't know. All I know is that just the fact that the question is out there that weight loss became a crowded category and slowing down. Once that happened, I changed my whole thesis on VKTX. I thought, okay, I think it could do really well and go higher, but you can't think of it with the same animal instincts. I'm old. I forgot. The minute Lilly came out, that was our first thought. I said, as much as I like VKTX, this has to affect the whole space. So I also, my opinion on weight loss kind of changed once I saw that news, because narrative matters short term. So even if someone's like, this is so big, this isn't going to slow down, the TAM is so big, it didn't matter. The market I knew would be affected. So
something you guys, oh my gosh, other earnings that came out this week. You mentioned ALAB, you mentioned what you guys have been doing with Reddit. Palantir was an earnings report this week and shot up big time post earnings, and then just kept going. And you told the Inner Circle in your morning call this morning, if this keeps going up into the open today, I'm short come the open, and you were, and it paid off. Talk about what you were seeing in Palantir that made you say this just can't keep going higher. We need to pull back here.
First off, got a real market cap, thick stock, many shares outstanding, and it had a day two, and the day two was magnificent, right? On the upside. It wasn't just a day one overbought. Oh my God, let's pick a top. It was a day two. The market loves patterns. Often they're in 3s and 5s. So I saw day 3. We're talking about literally the equivalent of a 20. We're talking about a 30% move in a matter of days, right? It tagged 40 and then 56, actually more than 30%. And I was like, 3 days, tag it. Am I trying to short this swing and call a top? No, it's expensive, but the market doesn't care, so I don't care. But I do care for one large scalp. So I said, listen, I'm not shorting it on the way down because I don't know if there's enough meat on the bone, but if it turns green and goes higher, I'm getting short. So I think 55.70, then 56, 56.20, we built a short and hung in there. It tried to go a little higher and then eventually took out lows of the day. We didn't catch the lows. I was covering in the 54s and it went to 53s, but it was day 3, over 80 relative strength and a massive move for a large market cap company. So that was the trade.
When it comes to small caps, IWM, and then biotechs, XBI, we've talked in the past about how these companies specifically are very rate sensitive. Does the Trump win change that environment for them? That we've seen the IWM and XBI both having strength throughout the weeks or since Tuesday. Is it a different story for that sector when it comes to a Trump win versus if it had been a Kamala win?
Yeah, absolutely. Taxes, cutting taxes,
right.
cutting taxes, more earnings to a lot of these companies. Also pro-America, and I'm not political, but so many people think he's all about tariffs and he's all about taking care of the American corporation and cutting taxes. So oddly, we can have a higher interest rate environment where small caps typically don't work, go up and do well because they're going to earn money due to less taxes and certainly just pro-American way, right? He's going to try and do a million collabs and force companies to get together and produce in America as opposed to China and things like that. So it can actually, higher interest rates used to be like a death knell for small caps. In the Trump administration, for the short term, they can do just fine, while housing stocks can get killed like they did yesterday. So you have to kind of learn that, yeah, the game changed ever since he was elected. Higher interest rates with Kamala would not have taken small caps up like that yesterday, not even remotely. So you have to kind of know the new parameters and obey them till they change.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to XBI sitting here at 103, what are your levels heading into the end of 2024 that you're focused on?
103, then 103. Then I like that 103 area. 103 is a wall. We can get through, it's 103, 50, 58. If we can get through there, whether it's a merger, whether it's an acquisition, whether it's a big earnings call, I think it'll really, in a very swift fashion, go to 110, 115 really quickly. If you look at its 3-4 year performance, it's minuscule versus every other asset class or sector. And there's a lot of positive things happening. I mean, tons. Forget about weight loss. It goes on and on, cancer, et cetera. Madrigal just, reported amazing results. So I think it'll happen, but boy, it hasn't been easy. And I've guided everyone the same way. I'm like, listen, if you were buying this for a breakout, if you're being a trader's trader, waiting for 103, just don't hurt yourself. Wait till it pulls back. Our last buy was 100 and then 96. And when it gets to 103, here's what I want you to do. I want you to hold some, continue to be disappointed. And then one day, when it gets through and it shows relative strength and the market's going down and it's edging higher, force yourself to chase it. So a great example would be Amazon yesterday. Amazon yesterday, you didn't have to buy it at 200. But once it was really through, you can buy it just like I did at 203. I got no problem with it at 211 today. So that's what I'm looking for out of XBI. It sets up great, one of my favorites into the end of the year, but buying up here has been a loser's proposition. So you really have to be cognizant that you almost want to pay 104, not 103 or 100 and below.
Mm-hmm. You had a focus on XBI at the end of 2023 into the beginning of this year as well. What is it about this time of year that is positive for the biotech space?
There are a lot of things, but one big thing, you get this tax loss selling, right? And often in these small companies with lower floats, you get tons of tax loss selling, especially when they underperform the way they have, right? They notoriously have underperformed. We just talked about that. And then you get these stocks that are down 80 or 90% that can then double and triple and still be off 70 or 60%. And think about what that does to an index when stocks are going up 100% off the low or 200% off the low. So that's part of it. And I just, typically, for whatever reason, small caps and XBI is a small cap index, just relegated to biotech. Small caps have always performed well. Maybe, it's Santa Claus makes us all happy and we're willing to reach out for risk. But across the board, small caps and biotech have done particularly well, specific to November. But I think part of it is the January effect, the tax loss taking, and then seeing how many stocks really rally hard off lows.
And you don't see any issues with the possibility of RFK and the administration in this space, or does it matter because, he's not going to be in until January, so we can run at the end of this year?
Here's the issue. I think if he wasn't there, we'd be talking about it at 105. So there's an issue. That's why it's not at 105. That's why with IWM up 6%, it was only up 2%. So yeah, I see an issue. The stock's already reacting. So I caution people. I said, listen, I don't care. I could kind of BS you and take a victory lap and tell you it's 103. And I told you November would be great. And it went from 98 to 103. Or I could tell you the reality, which is that IWM went from 221 to almost 240. And this can't really get through resistance yet. And the resistance on IWM was 228. It goes up 10 points. XBI is still stuck at 103. So he obviously presents a problem. It's in the stock right now. The question is, will the market work it out? And then we'll go up another 7. For right now, he's an issue, and that's why it's right here.
All right, great. All right, I'll let you get back to trading, David. But for anyone who's with us live, if you'd like to apply to join the inner circle, you can go to t3live.com/DP. It's a screenshot from the room like about a week ago. You know, DP, Rick, and Kira taught me how to buy the best companies and recovering. Oh, interrupt us now from the horrors of the past. So it's a transformative room and community. We'll go to again t3live.com/DP to apply. I'm gonna go because my dogs are barking. So have a good day, David.
Thanks for joining all.